soy mexicano, por destino soy americano. Yo soy de la raza de oro, yo soy México-americano. Yo te comprendo el inglés, también te hablo el castellano. Yo soy de la raza noble, yo soy México-americano. Zacatecas a Minnesota, de Tijuana a Nueva York, los países son mi tierra, los defiendo con mi honor. Dos idiomas y dos países.
What's your name?
My name is Anthony Wayne Hamblin.
Okay, where in Tucson are you from?
Grew up on the south side.
What do you think Chicano is?
Chicano, it's Mexican American, Mexican born here in the United States.
Okay. What do you think makes you a Chicano?
Because I'm Mexican born here in the United States, I guess. I guess that's the best answer I could come up with.
Okay. What was your life like growing up as a Chicano in Tucson, Arizona?
For the most part, it's pretty good. I grew up at a time where I guess race wasn't even that big of an issue, so it was pretty cool. I mean, I grew up hanging out with people of all races, but it was always good. It was always that pride of being a Chicano.
Okay. Were there some things that you enjoyed doing as a kid when you in Tucson? Like events or...
Somebody off screen is saying shooting up the neighborhood with their guns, which I don't know. Yeah, it was all fun. I mean, got to go cruising and everything. It was a different life. I mean, we used to do stuff you can't do no more. You know, go out and just party and have a good time. And I mean, you had real friends back then, and there's more interaction now. Everybody's just on phones and computers and all that stuff. But I mean, everything just cruising. Somebody, you know, pop up with a bottle, and all of a sudden we got a party going on in the neighborhood. It was pretty fun. It was pretty good.
Okay. Were most of your friends while growing up also Chicano, or did you have ones of other races? And
the vast majority was Chicano. Yeah. Grew up in a neighborhood. When I was a little kid, the neighborhood I grew up in was actually majority black, and then as I was growing, it just started turning into Little Mexico and everything. And so yeah, and my family was a big part of the neighborhood. We had like 7 or 8 houses in the neighborhood, so pretty much just surrounded by Chicano culture. A lot of Mexican.
Okay, and what's your favorite thing about being a part of the Chicano culture?
I like the fact that I have a background in a bunch of different cultures, you know. First and foremost, proud to be an American and everything, but we still got that Chicano culture, and you know, I love going down to Mexico, spending time with family down there and everything. So I think it builds a lot of character to be able to have a couple different backgrounds that you can explore, and you know, Chicano kind of combines that. It's the Mexican and the American, and you know, I think it's the best of both worlds. We do got a lot of unique stuff in our culture, but kind of living both worlds at the same time.
Is there anything that you would want to say anything about Chicano?
I don't know what to say. That's it.
All right. Sign off.
Why you gotta bring up old shit, Veronica?
What are some stories from when you were little?
Well, I was lucky. A big thing in our family was like they would send us down summer vacation down to Mexico and everything. I think they wanted us to keep in touch with that part of our culture. So I got to explore a lot of Mexico. That was something good. If I ever got my own kids, I'd probably do the same thing. I was gonna say too, my father's white, but never really associated myself with being white. I don't know. It just he was the only link I had to the white world. He wasn't really around, so I always associated more with my Mexican blood and my Yaqui blood. So that's the way we grew up. It's kind of unique. When I was growing up, my grandparents' house is like right in the middle of town now, but when I was a kid, it was on the outskirts. So kind of grew up living like in a little urban farm. It was pretty cool. Got to be around livestock and all that stuff. And then, I don't know, it was like when the emergence of all the gangs and stuff were coming out, my uncles were all, running around, but their ideas of gangs and everything were, meeting up and doing breakdancing battles and stuff like that. And it wasn't until probably my early teens is when I started playing with guns and everything and running around. That was a big part of the Chicano life for me, was just, fighting for the hood and everything. Geez, I don't even know. Stories from when I was a kid. That's pretty much it. I mean, we used to run in the desert and go to little hunting parties, kill rabbits and stuff. And then when we started getting to our teenage years, it was all just about throwing hooks and fighting. And then just kind of evolved radically. All of a sudden, everybody's running around with guns and knives and, playing a little bit harder. But I don't know. That's one thing I like. Like I keep going back to it. The Yaqui part of my blood, I think that kind of added to me always trying to fight all the time and everything. A lot of fire that comes with Yaqui blood. Spent a lot of time on the reservation too, so I kind of go out of my way to try to look at other cultures and everything. Try to study my culture. I don't know what to say now. Ask me another question.
Okay.
Ready? All right. One big thing that was kind of a shell shock was I kept getting kicked out of school and all this, and then I moved into the Vistas. I was moving around like once a year just because I kept getting in trouble, and my mom wanted to find a better neighborhood for us and everything. But when I moved to the Vistas, they had this program where they would take a couple busloads of us out of the hood every day and ship us to the north side. Try to, I don't know, incorporate us into society or whatever. But they ended up sending us to this, it was a nicer middle school and everything, and a lot of rich white kids up there. And up until then, like, race had never really been an issue. It was, like I said, we had a couple of white guys that grew up with us in the neighborhood, but they were all poor and everything, so we kind of grew up on the same level. Neighborhood was primarily black when I was growing up. Like I said, it switched to mostly Hispanic by the time I was a teenager. But like my first experience growing up with all these, going to school with all these rich white guys, and I mean, they would talk down on us not just because of our skin color and everything, but it was mostly just like a class warfare type deal. But definitely it was an easy target, to pick on somebody because of the color and all this. And like I said, I'm half white. I'm not even that brown or nothing, but I still kept catching all kinds of shit from them all the time, And that was a real racially charged atmosphere right there. I found myself fighting like every day in school. Get suspended for a week and come back and get another fight in the first day. It was like like I had a lineup already waiting for me, and there was a lot of fights I got away with too because we were real good about it. I mean, we'd go set up fights and go meet in the bathroom and everything and throw hooks, and then that'd be it. But it was very unique. I mean, even to I don't know, it's just a different world and everything. But that was the first time that I felt like being Chicano or being Mexican was kind of detrimental, I guess. I saw these kids that came from successful families and everything, and they would they'd make fun of us and make you feel, I mean, really, really make you feel like shit. And it was kind of like the only payback we could get was hitting them back physical. I mean, I'd get in fights where it was me against like 2 or 3 guys, and I'd come out on ahead just because I had that that violent streak in me, and I grew up fighting all the time, so I had that warrior blood going, and kind of feel like that was the only way we could get a little bit of payback on them, because I knew that all these kids, come from big families with big houses and big cars and all that, and they're right, probably never was gonna reach those goals and everything. So yeah, that was a weird situation right there. I think it kind of affects me to this day too. I've gone pretty far, like in the fields I've chosen. Like when I work security, I always get to that point where I hit that point where I'm captain or field supervisor, and I have the opportunity to move into the office. But I think it's not me, and I think it's ingrained in me now that like I don't want to take that step further. I mean, I could be a leader when it comes to the blue collar, but I just can't step into that white collar world. I don't know, kind of feel like that had a lot to do with the whole program. I think the program was a failure, by the way, trying to incorporate it. All they did was alienate 2 busloads of kids from the hood, and kind of took some good rich white kids and kind of brought them down a low level too. I mean, I remember selling them weed and stuff when we were in school, or I'd make these little shanks out of kitchen knives, and these little kids would buy it up. They'd be like, oh, I want a shank too, and they want to live dangerous and everything. It kind of introduced them into a bad world. Even though it was like an exaggeration, cartoon version of the world, but we sold it and they bought it. I don't know.
Okay. What's your name?
Lauren Witt.
What's your age?
I'm 58.
Okay. What is your race or heritage?
White.
White. Okay.
Yeah.
What part of Tucson did you grow up in?
I grew up in the west side of town along Speedway and Silverbell.
Okay. What do you think Chicano is?
I don't know the real close definition, but I thought it was just a Mexican American person.
Okay. Were most of your friends while you were growing up Chicano?
It was like 50-50. I had half, and that was about it.
Okay. What were some of the things that you enjoyed doing with friends while growing up here in Tucson? With your Chicano friends?
We'd hang out at my buddy's house and work on cars and do that kind of stuff. We'd go riding our mini bikes out in the desert behind St. Mary's Hospital, and pretty much just that, riding bikes and goofing off after school in the summer.
Okay. Well, did you feel accepted with your Chicano friends?
Yeah, I really didn't notice any difference.
Okay. Did they, okay, right.
Okay.
Go.
Okay. When I was growing up, I attended Roscrooge Junior High, which is in the center of town by Tucson High School. And there was a lot of mixture of kids there. And then I went to high school at Choya. There were always a bunch of cliques. A lot of the Hispanic kids hung out together. Cowboys hung out together. The hippie kids hung out together. But most of my friends were a mixture of everything. So I really didn't hang out in any certain cliques,
Is there any stories you want to tell or something you want to say to people that are Chicano or people that have friends of Chicanos?
I think a lot of people misinterpret the meaning of Chicano, you know, but like I said, all the kids that I hung out with, you know, we all dress similar. We all listen to the same kind of music. They might have lived in different areas, you know, where the majority were Hispanic, but, you know, they didn't show any difference, you know, as far as race of people, you know. At least the kids that I hang out with, you know.
Okay. Was there anything about Tucson that you felt were like accepting for Chicanos, or anything with like Tucson and Chicano?
Not really. It seems like the majority of Tucson is a mix of races, you know, and I know there's certain areas of town, like in the Barrio areas downtown by the community center. My wife has a friend that was raised up in that area, and she said it was a rough neighborhood, but, you know, the people that I've met out there tend to be good people, you know, so it's like everything else all through town. There can be a mixture of good and bad people, so you can't blame it on any certain race, you know.
Okay. Again, do you have any stories that you want to tell about growing up and doing things with your friends, or events that you did with them? Or
Oh, my one buddy, we would do a lot of stuff, like I said, working on cars and everything, but there was this one funny story. We were like 16, 17 years old, and my buddy, you know, David, he'd work on cars a lot, so we decided to make up a sandrail out of one of these cars, and we were over at his house every day cutting the body apart, and we had it all cut down, and then we got bored of it, so David decided he wanted to take it to the scrapyard. So we hooked it to, I don't know if it was my truck or his truck, hooked it to the truck, and we found one of his neighbor kids down the street. He was only like 13 years old, and we had him sit in the driver's seat and steer the car while we pulled it down the freeway, which was dumb, but that was the kind of stuff we did back then, you know.
is there anything else you'd like to say?
Not really. It was just, you know, a lot of fun hanging out with my buddies, you know, back then, and we'd get into mischief, but we wouldn't do a whole lot, you know, so.
Okay. Ready? And okay. What's your name?
My name is Lisa Witt.
How old are you?
I'm 51.
Okay. What part of Tucson are you from?
I grew up, the first part of my life, I was at 36th Street and South Forges, which is the south side of Tucson. And when I turned right about 14, we moved to the north side, which is around the Fort Lowell and Stone area.
Okay. What is your race or heritage?
I'm Mexican and French.
Okay. What do you consider a Chicano as?
Chicano is part of the Mexican heritage, but my family never really got involved with it. We didn't consider ourselves Chicanos. We were just Mexicans.
Okay. And so what do you consider yourself, like, do you see yourself exactly what Chicanos are, or like your family thought that you were not fully Chicano, but do you see yourself as Chicano?
I don't see myself as a Chicano. I have never had to be like an activist for my Mexican heritage.
Okay. When you were growing up, were a lot of your friends Chicano or mixed other races?
All different races.
Okay. And did the Chicanos or other races accept you while you were growing up, or did you feel more outcasted?
I used to have to prove I was Mexican because I was blonde my whole life. So, you know, my mom was the Mexican part of me, so she looked very Mexican. So once they saw my mom, then they're like, oh, okay, she is. you know.
Okay. What were some of the things that you enjoyed doing in the Chicano part of Tucson, or like events that you
Oh.
like doing?
Well, we did all the normal things, getting together with our relatives a lot, having lots of beans and rice and tortillas and tacos and whatever, you know. Getting the cascarones at parties and stuff, and those are the little eggs in the cone. Banging them on each other's heads and getting all the confetti out, you know. Love mariachi festivals and just going to any restaurant that had mariachis.
Is there any stories or things that you want to talk to about, like to Chicanos or other people about Chicano, being a Chicano?
Basically, you could kind of tell a Chicano because when they'd see other Chicanos, they would do this sign. Before people were pounding, there was this, and that was just a show of unity. You know, a show of, you know, they're the same, of the same mind. You know, but I don't really know if any of my relatives were involved in the Chicano movement. We were just kids running around this yard or that yard, and you know, playing our games.
Okay, is there anything else you want to say?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. What's your name?
Cecil Rico.
Okay. What's your age?
I'm 57.
So what part of Tucson are you from?
I grew up on the west side of Tucson.
Okay. And what's your race or heritage?
My background is Mexican American.
Okay. What do you think Chicano is?
Chicano is, to me, is anyone raised in the States that has a Mexican or a Hispanic background.
Okay. Do you consider yourself as Chicano?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I consider myself a Mexican American.
Okay. So, what part of Tucson did you come from?
Grew up on the west side, far
Okay.
west side of Tucson.
Okay. What were some of the things that you did growing up in Tucson?
On the far west side, when I grew up, there was nothing but desert out there. So the desert was our playgrounds. We mainly, as boys, there was probably a group of 15 boys in that neighborhood, and we all played in the desert and built forts and went hunting with our BB guns and just barbecued quail and just whatever boys do.
Okay.
Ride
When
their
you were
bikes.
when you were growing up, were most of your friends Chicano or were they a mixed race?
I grew up in a neighborhood that was mixed. I had African American friends, white people, if you want to call them that, Mexicans. We had a pretty good mix of friends.
Okay. So what were? Do you have any stories that you want to talk about, or?
No, I grew up in a traditional Mexican American house, working class. My mom stayed home as the kids were growing up, and my father went to work. And very blue collar neighborhood. Mainly the women stayed home, and the men all went to work. And that's about all I can. We grew up with pretty good values. A lot of strict parents. The whole neighborhood parents was our parents. If you did wrong somewhere, the other parents could discipline you, and the whole rigmarole. Once you got home, you knew you were in trouble if you had done something wrong.
When you were growing up, did you feel like you were accepted around the people that you were, like kids that you went to school with or people in your neighborhood?
Yeah, growing up, I've never felt slighted or realized I was Mexican American. I was just accepted with most of my classmates, and my school consisted of Chinese, African Americans, Anglo, just very mixed. So we all got along.
Okay. Is there any like story you'd like to talk about or anything?
Really, nothing. Had a great childhood, great growing up. Never had. We used to walk home from Tolly School and there was a golf course there. We'd sell golf balls to the golfers back to them, or we'd hit the boys club on the way home, or just play in the wash. It was probably, I don't know, a mile walk home. But
Okay. Is there anything that you want to talk about relating to Chicano or anything?
not really.
Okay. Okay. What's your name?
My name is Veronica Hamblin, and my maiden name is Castro.
Okay. What's your age?
It's 29 years old.
Okay. What's your race?
I am Mexican American. My father was also born here, but yeah, most of my family's in Mexico.
Okay. What do you think Chicano is?
I think Chicano is when your roots are based out of Mexico, but it's just knowing your place in society, and you still live the traditions that you were taught through your family, through your Mexican roots, but still living an American lifestyle.
Okay. What do you think makes you a Chicano?
I think what makes me a Chicano is exactly that. Growing up, I was always a little bit, like, I grew up in some diversity. My mother's white, but my father's Mexican, and so I learned a lot about my roots out of Mexico. Actually, I learned more about my Mexican roots than I have other parts of my mother's side of the family. I don't know quite as much history, but I would say that the fact that I'm in touch with my roots and understanding the culture that my father and my grandfather were raised out of, my great-great-grandfather,
Okay. What part of Tucson are you from?
I am from Northwest Central area.
Okay. When growing up, what were most of your friends?
Most of my friends were actually Mexican. In fact, I had quite a few friends who didn't even speak English, which is funny. Which is how I learned a lot more Spanish, because at home my dad didn't really speak it. My mom didn't understand, so I learned a lot more Spanish being at school with my friends. And the school that I went to was primarily Latinos, and there were very few light-skinned people, and I was one of them. I'm one of those güeras.
Okay. What were some of the things that you enjoyed as growing up as a Chicano?
Okay, I would say that I enjoyed the traditions that I grew up with a lot. My grandmother taught me a lot of things, like as far as how to cook, like her favorite dishes. And during the holidays, because I had a diverse childhood, my mother's side of the family enjoyed making cinnamon rolls. And then, like, right after that, we'd start making tamales. And we'd all have this little kind of a line, like one person would wash out the ears of the corn, and the next person would slap the masa on there. Next person would put the meat. Next person would put the olives. We all had our own little jobs, and I just really enjoyed learning that kind of stuff. I don't know. I liked spending time with my nana a lot. I would say the stories. She'd sit down and tell us about where we came from, and she really made sure that she instilled her childhood in us so that we understood where we came.
What were some of the different things that you did with your non-Chicano friends that you didn't do with your Chicano friends?
Okay, I only had a couple non-Chicano friends. One of them was my neighbor, and sweetest girl. She was white, and I noticed there was a big difference in the way we interacted as kids. We played with Barbie dolls. We spent a lot of our time inside. We played Barbies. We played on video games, and we'd play puzzles and Operation, like game Operation, stuff like that. But it's funny because when I would be with my friends who were of Mexican origin, or even just being Chicanos, we ate a lot. We did a lot of, we'd spend a lot of time making quesadillas, snacking, and it's funny to think about it now, but hanging out in our rooms with singing along to Selena. I remember at one point I knew every single word of her entire CD, and yet I hardly spoke Spanish myself. It's just funny. But I don't know. I guess I would spend a lot of time outside too. We'd hang out, and there's just something different. Like if you want to spend more time outdoors and appreciating like just watching the stars and things like that. I just noticed it was really really different from my white friend who spent like all of her time indoors. You know, all of her time doing things that she was just different. It was different. Yeah. I don't want to come off racist either. She's like my Mexican friends.
What were some of the Chicano events that you enjoyed growing up in Tucson?
I would say, well, of Mexican heritage, I would say one of the things that I really enjoyed in Tucson was the procession for the Dia de los Muertos, where you honor your past loved ones, and you basically walk a long distance, and it's in their honor. And at the very end, they had this large orb that you would write a message to, and they would raise it up in the sky and burn it. And it was just really it symbolized something beautiful, you know. Also, growing up, I was in Folklorico, and so we would have different concerts around town. I even tried mariachi. I tried playing the violin, but that didn't go over very well. But yeah, we did a lot of stuff like that. And then also, my great uncle Cuco, he is very well known in the community for this group and the mariachis that he actually taught at one of the high schools, and then they went on to doing different parties and things around town. So we would go to his events and support him. I would say that was cool.
And I wanna say thanks